A warm welcome, everyone. Day 5, 28th April 2026. Today, we'll learn practically what we learned on day 3 and day 4. That is, how to decode a newspaper and a beginner's guide to how to read a newspaper. All right. As you all can see, I have this The Hindu subscription. This is my today's paper. So let's begin with decoding the newspaper. All right. This says The Hindu. Here you can see on the left hand corner, Tuesday, 28th April 2026. And then you can see which edition it is. Hyderabad. I told you there are many editions, right? So here you can see there are just so many editions. All right. And now I also told you that a newspaper is a culmination of a lot of articles and many advertisements. Let me show that to you. So here we have the newspaper. Those are a lot of articles, and here you can see an advertisement. Tamil Nadu Mercantile Bank Limited. All right. So now we see that many articles. Now let's just look at one of them. India New Zealand sign historic free trade deal. Now this is nothing but the headline. Then we also have the subheading, which is deal to be implemented after New Zealand Parliament ratification later this year. Prime Minister calls the agreement a milestone, says it reflects convergence of values, trust, and shared ambition. All right, and after that, I told you we can see the author's name, and here you can see it clearly. It's TCA Sharad Raghavan, and where this news took place, the place of origin of the news, that is New Delhi, which is mentioned here. And then we come into the article, which usually has an introduction and then the body. It usually follows 5 W's plus 1 H technique. I told that to you. So 5 H's, 5 W's are who, what, where, when, why, and the H stands for how. So here they try and interpret all of this. And then I told you there will be conclusion, which is just a conclusion, or it can have a byline of to be continued. All right, and here you can see that has it. All right, now let's try and interpret the news. All right, now we are trying to interpret the news. Let's move on to an article that came on 26th, that is Sunday. And I also told you another important point, which is that a newspaper usually has different pages. I told you. Here you see it has 28 pages. And when you see today's newspaper, it has 16 pages. So it's usually different. It ranges between 18 to 22 pages. You can put this as a mean. All right. Now let's move on to the main topic. We've just decoded there are different type of articles, and then I also told you there are many sections, right? So here you can see there's jacket, there's front, regional, clad, states, south, news, business, science, FAQs, profiles. So these are all subgroups. They've divided articles into different parts for you to just understand, and it's all very self-explanatory. Once you start reading a newspaper, you'll easily get a hang of all of this. All right, now let's move on to try and interpret how to read a newspaper. All right. Now we've decoded it to some extent. And now let's understand how to read and how to make sense of the newspaper. So here you see there's an article called AAP to seek disqualification of MPs who defected to BJP. And when I clicked on this, I tried to open it. Then here, I'm going to read it. All right. Be patient with me. The Aam Aadmi Party on Saturday said it would seek the disqualification of its 7 Rajya Sabha members who broke away from the party, calling the move unconstitutional and illegal. Now, suddenly introduced to something, and you're like, okay, I understand something happened. There are 7 MPs who are members of the parliament, who are Rajya Sabha members, who broke away from this party. But why are they specifically using this term 7? That doesn't make sense to you. All right, now you're moving further. Addressing a press conference, senior AAP leader and Rajya Sabha member Sanjay Singh said he would write to Rajya Sabha chairman citing the 10th schedule and demanding termination of their membership, arguing that even a two-thirds split holds no legal validity under the anti-defection law. Now you saw two different terms here. It says 10th schedule, it says anti-defection law, and you are just confused. You're like, okay, all of this is English, but I don't understand this English. You're right. It feels a lot overwhelming. Then we move on to the next bit, which says the anti defection law clearly states that no form of split is permissible in the Assembly, Rajya Sabha, or the Lok Sabha. It has no legal recognition, and this has also been clearly established in the Shiv Sena case. Now you get a little hang of it. You understand that maybe anti-defection law is talking about split, and there's some kind of split that has happened because it says AAP MPs defected to BJP. So you understand, okay, maybe they split from that party. And now you're reading it further. On Friday, Raghav Chadda MP said that more than two-thirds of AAP MPs had quit the party and would merge with the BJP by exercising the provisions of the constitution. The AAP earlier had a strength of 10 MPs in the Rajya Sabha, of which 3 remain now. This is where newspaper seems tricky for beginners because just a lot of information and it's not data, it needs to make sense, and then it has a lot of inner meanings, it needs a lot of interpretations, and this is somebody's interpretation. We don't even know if this is the news. All we understand from here is that there are just 7 MPs who broke off from AAP and now have joined BJP. That's the news, and rest of it is all interpretation of how to look at this news. So this was this particular author's interpretation, Jaideep Dev Bhanj, in whatever article word limit was given to him. He tried to make the most of it, and he's given you an article. But for the beginners, it's very tricky because you don't understand the behind story of it. That is, you do not have a great understanding of constitution. It's probably the first time I'm sure you're not hearing it the first time, but then I'm sure you all have not read it thoroughly and you do not have it on the tips of your hand that someone says 10 schedule and you just know what it is, right? So it's a lot difficult to interpret it. This is where I believe editorials come into help. So as I told you, this is an article from the front page of 26th April 2026. Now let's move on to today's newspaper, and here we're clicking on the editorial bit. Here we have this title of Gang of Seven. So now something clicks in your head. Why does it say Gang of Seven? And then suddenly it makes sense when you start reading it. Okay. Gang of Seven because 7 MPs defected. Now it makes all the sense in the world. All right. Large-scale defections have rendered the 10th schedule impotent. So now, clearly, you can see that editorial is again an interpretation. It's a viewpoint. All right. Now let's get into the editorial. On April 27, 7 of Aam Aadmi Party's 10 Rajya Sabha members announced their merger with the Bharatiya Janata Party. Makes so much more sense. That's why that Raghav Chadda MP was quoted by saying that more than two-thirds of MPs have defected from AAP and have decided to merge into BJP. These are the words he uses. So now you understand that it is two-thirds because there were only 10 members. So 7 out of 10 is two-thirds or more, right? Makes sense. All right. Now we've cracked one bit of it. Moving further. The Rajya Sabha chairman has accepted their claim of merger, raising the BJP's strength in the upper house to 113 and the combined strength of the National Democratic Alliance above the halfway mark for the first time. The episode highlights the nature of AAP, the crass opportunism of the turncoats, the mechanizations of the BJP, and the institutionalized defanging of the anti defection law. Of the seven, Raghav Chadda, Sandeep Pathak, and Swati Maliwal were part of AAP in an organic manner, to the limited extent that it had an identity beyond the whims of its founder, Arvind Kejriwal. So, here the author highly speaks of these three MPs he believes were in AAP because of its foundational idealism with which this party was started or founded. And then, further, if we move on, for the other four, their exit is as opportunistic as their entries into AAP were. He doesn't have much regard for the other four and calls them opportunistic. So you see here that this article is an interpretation of the news, correct? The author began by giving you a clear understanding of what exactly was the news. There were seven MPs, they defected, there were 10 of them totally, and now only three remain in that party, representing that party, and the rest seven are now in BJP, and now they're the members of the BJP. All right. And now it says the news here is talking about how the Rajya Sabha chairman has accepted their claim. And he said that he gave a positive signal to this merger, calling it authentic. So that's why this article is being written. All right. Now, let's move on to the next line. It says Mr. Kejriwal used to taunt the Congress for losing its legislators to the BJP in several states as symptomatic of the erosion of its ethical responsibility. But a relentless campaign of anarchy in the pursuit of power exposed the true character of AAP as a far cry from its grand claims. The disintegration of its Rajya Sabha contingent is the culmination of the cynicism and opportunism on which AAP thrived, imposing a heavy cost on the democratic institutions of India. It reaped what it sowed. So, here again, the author is taking a big hit at AAP and calling, especially its leader out, Mr. Kejriwal, calling him, it's all tit for tat. You spoke this way of Congress, and now it's happening in your own home. All right, that was just the author's comment on Mr. Kejriwal, nothing to do with the. It's just his viewpoint, and there's no news per se in it. All right, now let's move on further. Here it says there is no reason to ignore the brazen misinterpretation invoked by the Gang of Seven and accepted by the chairman of Rajya Sabha of the 10th schedule of the Constitution, which bars the defection of elected representatives from their original party. See, here it's cracked it again. You read two words in the main article. When you were introduced to it, it said 10th schedule and anti defection law. And here in the editorial, he clearly speaks about the 10th schedule, which bars the defection of elected representatives from their original party. So here you understand, okay, so this news is important because they have violated something. And it says the 10th schedule speaks about defection. Okay, so now you've gotten a little bit of understanding that they have defected from their original party. And now when you read it further, the merger exception in the schedule is clear that a party can merge with another subject to the concurrence of the two-thirds of its legislators. So here it's completely clear. You understand that there is something to deal with the original party. So what is this original party? It is something to deal with the 10th schedule. And when you read this 10th schedule, you might get a full understanding. But still, if you reread it again once or twice, you'll get a hang of it. You are starting to understand that the merger exception in the schedule is clear that the party can merge with another, subject to the concurrence of two-thirds of its legislators. See here, he's telling that the author, whoever that is mentioning that in 10th schedule, a merger is not a problem in the sense that a merger might not lead to disqualification of the legislators provided there is concurrence of two-thirds of its legislators, and the party is also clearly merging with another. All right, so now you've gotten a lot of understanding. It makes a lot of sense to you now. And then further reads in 2023, the Supreme Court of India elaborated that the legislature party cannot dictate the course of the political party and the two cannot be conflated. So now you understand that there are two different parties here, legislature party and the political party. Now it makes more sense. So the original party in the above third line was nothing but a political party. So an original political party can decide a merger provided its MPs also agree to it, and there are two-thirds in numbers. That's exactly what that is. So in 2023, Supreme Court said that the legislator party cannot dictate the course of the political party in the sense that MPs cannot switch from one party to another without the political party's concurrence. They cannot leave the political party hanging high and dry. That's what the Supreme Court interpreted, and that the two cannot be conflated. Two-thirds of the members of the legislative party of the original party must accept a merger for it to be valid under the anti defection law. You understood? So, two-thirds of the legislative members should agree to it. And then to turn this around and argue that two-thirds of the party's legislative members can cross over to another party without attracting disqualification is a stretch. Now he says who interpreted what how. If MPs, who are the legislative parties, if only this particular clause of two-thirds of the legislative members, legislative party, if it agrees to join another party, it does not qualify as disqualification and this merger is acceptable. Isn't that a stretch? Is what the author questions. And he says that this is exactly that is being challenged in the court by AAP. The court's past interventions on similar developments are less than reassuring, sadly. He says that the court gave different interpretations, but that did not yield any results. That's exactly what he's telling here. Elected governments have been unseated on the back of large scale defections, rendering the 10th schedule important in the recent past. So he just says that the elected governments have left and right been using this schedule to take MPs, to poach MPs from everywhere. That's what the author is trying to say. That the court could not set any deterrence to this open betrayal of the popular mandates is borne out by the fact that such acts are being repeated with impunity. So the author is of the opinion that since there is no punishment that's been attracted for anti-defection because it's being tied under this clause of merger wherein they found some loophole and also courts are not reaching out that much, they're just breaching the anti-defection law left and right. That's the interpretation. So when you read this primary article, you just got the news and you were more confused. I'm not saying that the first front page news is always confusing, but for first time readers, they throw in a lot of jargon which might make you shaken up. But then once you start reading editorials, they give you a brief understanding of it in the sense that the author tries to explain things, puts in minute details for you to further understand. Now, if you are really interested, and probably if you're preparing for any competitive exams or so, this becomes even more important for you. And then you're beginning your journey with the newspaper for the first time. And I believe many of you who are listening to this are those UPSC aspirants or any exam aspirants. So now, when you read the news after a certain period of time, when you become an avid reader, you will tend to pick up the news and then you can have your own opinions. But that's going to take a lot of time once you understand all the basic things that are necessary for you to understand. In the sense that you should have a good understanding of sociology, a good understanding of political science, good understanding of public administration, a little bit of history there, geography here, science there, math there, and all of this. But then that's not possible. We all can't be jack of all cards, right? And that's where newspaper becomes important. And then you pick it up, You understand it a little bit, you read an editorial, and then, if the need be, you'll tap into the further details. Just to give you a more overview and then an in depth analysis of this particular article, let me just make you all understand what's 10 schedule. All right. So now I've just Google searched 10 schedule, and here I found a link of Constitution of India, which is where you can see this is exactly it, and I've just opened it here. Okay. So here, what does it say? What is this? Is nothing but pages drawn from the Constitution of India, which are updated ones. All right. It says 10 schedule, and that's under Article 102. You read that as Section 2 and 191, Section 2. All right. Now you move in. What's a legislature party? What's an original political party? They give you a clear understanding of that. And I already told you, legislature party is nothing but an MP who is belonging to an upper house, lower house, or vice versa in the states as well. All right. And then the original political party is the political party which that particular person is belonging to before he switched. The original one he belonged to, and through which he got the member of the parliament. Yeah. All right. Now let's move on. When we were moving on, we also understood that this article is talking more about mergers. Why an MP is disqualified or not disqualified. All right. Now here we see the fourth point. This says disqualification on ground of defection not to apply in case of a merger. Now they give you scenarios when a MP will be disqualified on the ground of defection. Yeah, you got that? All right. So here, hello. Yeah. Disqualification on ground of defection not to apply in case of a merger. When does it not apply? Let's see. A member of House shall not be disqualified on the subparagraph 1 of paragraph 2 where his original political party merges with another political party and he claims that he and other members of his original political party have become members of such other political party, or as the case may be. Yeah, just give me like a minute. Yeah, let's move on. Okay, so it says they shall not be disqualified if the original political party merges with another political party. That's all that says. And then there's a second point here. It says, for the purposes of subparagraph 1 of this paragraph, the merger of the original political party of a member of House shall be deemed to have taken place if and only if not less than two-thirds of the members of the legislature party concerned have agreed to such merger. So here you've understood. According to Constitution of India, when we read it, it says that the original political party must merge with another political party, and that also the merger will only be claimed to have taken place if and only if not less than two-thirds of the members of the legislative party concerned have agreed to such merger. Now, mind you, in this particular case, two-thirds of the members have merged from AAP to BJP. It does fit into the second point. Now the question is, the first point, it says a member of the House shall not be disqualified where his original political party merges with another political party. Did that happen? That did not happen. But again, you have to read it again to understand. Here it says the merger of the original political party of a member of a House shall be deemed to have taken place if and only if not less than two-thirds of the members of legislature party concerned have agreed to such merger. This is why all of this comes under judicial review, because we want to protect our constitution. We are independent, interdependent. All right. So this is left up to the court's interpretation. Did they misuse? Are they using loopholes? And all of that is up to your understanding and how much of a depth you want to go into it. You want to check it. If they've done something wrong, is this a clear violation? All of that is too much of interpretation. Have such disqualifications happened on such terms of mergers? No, they've not happened. In the recent past, they've not happened. Prior to 91st Constitutional Amendment Act of 2003, we had something called a split, which is a party could just one-third members could just decide, MPs, mind you, legislature parties could just decide to move from one party to another, and that was acceptable constitutionally. But then after a lot of judicial review, in the sense that many cases were reported to Supreme Court wherein they said ayaram gayaram, this is not acceptable, and then we finally came up with 91st Constitutional Amendment Act of 2003, wherein split was completely omitted and they only allowed merger. Now it's again up to constitutional amendment that we cannot particularly judge this particular case, and it's all open to interpretation. And we live in a democracy. Everyone is okay to have their own view and opinion. So that's all for today, I guess. I guess you all did understand what this article was talking about and how to read your newspaper. And I'll try to bring up many such interpretations of editorials for the next few days or months if many of my subscribers want it. And yes, let me handhold all of you to start your journey with the newspapers. It's very much essential that we live in a democracy and we need to have these discussions and debates continuously. Only then democracy is going to succeed, because we just cannot have one person talking and everyone else listening to it. We all need to have our own interpretations. We need to use our heads, most importantly, in today's world. We all need to be opinionated, and for that, we need to be knowledgeable firstly. So that's our journey here. Jagrut Bharat, brought to you by Rupaya Majala. Thank you so much. That's all for today.